It was magnetic, like we were stuck to each other. I felt like we were both just kind of traveling the same wavelength. It should have been a time of joy, a celebration of love, commitment, and 1 year of marriage. A couple, drawn together by what seemed like fate, took off for the serene, wooded landscapes of Vermont. Their plan? A quiet getaway in a custom campervan. Music, candles, and solitude, the ingredients for romance. But instead of toasting to their love beneath the stars, only one of them would return, and the other would never come back. Welcome to Mystery in Minutes, where we bring you the most compelling and disturbing crime stories in chilling detail. In this case, we take you to a picturesque town in Vermont, Bolton, nestled in the Green Mountains, but don't let the beauty of the setting fool you. Behind the scenes, something dark was unfolding. It's October 15th, 2021. Joseph Ferlazo and his wife, 22-year-old Emily, are driving into Bolton for a weekend trip meant to mark their 1-year wedding anniversary. They arrive at the Bear Run condos, where they briefly meet up with Joseph's sister, Nikki, and her boyfriend. The plan? Relax, reconnect, maybe watch a movie together. It was supposed to be perfect. This was no ordinary trip either. It was their maiden voyage in a campervan they had fixed up together. But for Emily, there was added significance. It would also be her first time meeting Joseph's sister. That's a big deal. They'd been married a whole year.
Joseph and Emily had a significant age difference, about 20-year age difference. He is in his 40s. So Emily was a beautiful young woman in her 20s. She had been working as a licensed nurse assistant, an LNA, so she was very big on helping people and caring about people.
Ferlazo was described as lively, bright, and compassionate. She worked as a licensed nurse assistant, an LNA. Helping others was her passion. She dreamed of becoming a cosmetologist and loved singing. To many, she was the kind of person who lit up a room. Joseph, nearly 2 decades older, was a tattoo artist, quiet, skilled, mysterious. They met in Vermont and later moved to New Hampshire, where they lived with Emily's family. Despite the age difference, he was in his 40s, she was barely out of her teens. Emily was drawn to him, and he seemed to offer her a certain edge, a freedom perhaps. But when they arrived in Bolton, a shift in mood came quickly. Emily discovered something unsettling. Joseph used to live at these very same condos with his ex-wife. Even more disturbing? His ex was reportedly still living there. What was meant to be a fresh, romantic trip suddenly became charged with tension. And, from what we know, an argument broke out. No one knows exactly what was said, but the rest of the weekend would spiral into something unthinkable. The next morning, Saturday, Joseph went out for breakfast with Nikki and her boyfriend at a local spot called Maxie's in nearby Waterbury. Emily wasn't with them. When Nikki asked where she was, Joseph simply said Emily wasn't feeling well and decided to stay in. A simple answer, but something wasn't right. After breakfast, they went back to the condo. Later that day, Joseph drove the campervan to visit friends, the Langs, in St. Albans. The original plan was for Joseph to give Nikki a tattoo while they all spent the afternoon together. At some point, Joseph mentioned again that he and Emily had an argument, and that she had taken an Uber back to New Hampshire. That night, Nikki went back to the condo. Joseph returned to the Langs. Everything, on the surface, seemed calm. But hundreds of miles away, Emily's family was beginning to panic. She had gone dark. No social media, no texts, no calls, not even a simple message to let her parents know she was okay. That wasn't like Emily. David Bass, Emily's stepfather, knew something was wrong, and he made a crucial decision. He called Vermont State Police. Trooper Cody took took the call. From that very first conversation, he sensed the tension. He picked up on inconsistencies and clues that others might have missed. Instead of treating this as a simple missing persons case, Cody decided to dig deeper. He contacted Joseph directly. Trooper. So, where did you drop her off? Joseph. In a parking lot. She got an Uber. She asked me to drop her there. It was vague. Too vague. Something didn't sit right. Then, another red flag. Joseph told police the campervan had broken down and was in a garage somewhere. But when police reached out to the Langs, they told a very different story. The van's not in a garage, they said. It's here, in our driveway. Trooper Cody immediately contacted the local barracks in St. Albans and ordered officers to search the van. They didn't find Emily, but they knew now that the situation was far from normal. The questions began piling up. Where was Emily? Was she alive? Had she run away? Or had something much worse happened? And then, just when the pieces were still scattered, something major broke. On Sunday night, Joseph showed up at his friend Spencer's house and asked for a ride. He claimed he needed to pick up his van. Spencer agreed, and the two set off. But as they neared the Langs' property, police vehicles were everywhere. Spencer got nervous. "What's going on?" he asked. Joseph's answer stunned him. "I did something really bad." Joseph Ferlazo looked his friend in the eye and said 4 chilling words. "I killed my wife." Shocked and terrified, Spencer pulled over and let Joseph out of the car. He immediately called 911. Joseph fled, disappearing into the Vermont woods, but the net was closing in. By the following day, Trooper Amy Nolan spotted a man walking slowly across a convenience store parking lot.
Noticed this man walking really slowly, wearing a hood, which, didn't really strike me as odd at that point because it was a cool October day. So I waited for him to cross the parking lot, head into the store, and my fellow trooper and I headed into the store, and I took note that that person had gone right back to the same cooler I was going to. And he had reached in and grabbed a drink, and as he was backing away from the cooler, he turned around and he looked at me, and we made eye contact, and as he rounded the corner, he looked at me again, and that's when it clicked, this is Joseph Ferlazo. And I followed him outside, and at that point I said, "State Police, stop for a second, I'd like to talk to you." So he stopped and he turned around, and I just said, "Joseph, it's you, right?" I said, "Are you okay?" And at that moment, it was like he completely deflated. And he put his drink down and he said, "No, I'm not okay."
There was no outburst, no pleading, no attempt to deny. It was as if all the energy he'd spent keeping his secrets had finally drained away. Trooper Nolan kept her voice calm and measured. "There are a lot of people looking for you, and we're worried about Emily." He looked down. His eyes were vacant. "Let's go." "Go where?" "Wherever you're taking me." When Nolan offered to drive him to the barracks to talk to investigators, he simply agreed. No resistance, no fight. As they drove, Vermont's brilliant fall colors blurred past the windows, a cruel backdrop to what Joseph was about to admit. Kill.
I wish it didn't happen. I wish I could turn back time. She was saying how she's like, "I'm gonna ruin your life, and I'm gonna make sure you lose your license. I'm gonna make sure nobody ever comes to you again." And I was just scared, and I was hurt. I never thought anybody could push me to that.
His words were slow, almost rehearsed. He described her hitting him, kicking him, screaming. Detectives were patient. They knew that in these first moments, a suspect might mix lies with truth. "Where was she hitting you?" "My arms, my side, body blows." He said he tried to calm her down, that he felt something blurry and warm inside his head, a fog rolling in. Then he uttered the sentence, "No detective forgets." "I shot her." He didn't stammer. He didn't cry. He just said it.
He described sitting there in the camper after the shooting, overwhelmed by panic. When detectives pressed him to explain what happened next, he confessed to something even darker. He said he cleaned up, that he put a bag over Emily's head because there was so much blood. The interviewer's voice stayed neutral, but the questions grew more specific. When you say you cleaned up, what does that mean? Joseph paused.
Because I put the vehicle in park. My wife went completely berserk, completely psychotic. And I shot her. We stopped. Typical, got some stuff to drink. I'm trying to listen to music. I was trying to put some candles on. Have some wine. Throwing the candles around and telling me to put them out. Turn the music off. Just being forceful and aggressive with me. Just turned to punching and kicking and just a lot of hurtful things. I can't even remember. Where was she punching you? In my arm.
Wasn't finished. He said he stabbed Emily's remains repeatedly 18 times. Detectives asked why. He didn't give an answer that made sense.
I just said that you shot her, so explain how that incident continued. I don't even know. I just know that I sat down and was, I don't know, something inside my head just I remember feeling really warm, and I remember feeling blurry, and I don't know, something inside me said enough is enough. And what did you shoot her with? A pistol. Okay, do you know what kind of pistol? It was a Glock pistol. A Glock? Whose Glock is it? Okay, where is the Glock now? The bus. It's in the bus? Okay. Can you describe Emily when you shot her? What was she doing? She had stopped fighting and she had gone and laid down. And I went and jumped on top of her and I shot her in the head. How many times?
A story that matched his confession with devastating precision. Investigators were struck by the calm he displayed as he recounted each detail. Even seasoned detectives said later they'd never heard anything like it. But the most haunting moment came when he described why he had a suppressor.
Describe what you mean when you say you cleaned up. There was blood coming out of her head, so I put a bag over it to catch the blood. There was blood on the pillows. I think everything up. Okay. What kind of bag? Like a trash bag. Okay.
Home. But even then, the full horror of what happened in that camper had yet to sink in, not just for investigators, but for Emily's family, who were still waiting for news that their daughter was alive. By the time police returned to the camper van, parked quietly in the Lang's driveway in St. Albans, it was no longer just a potential crime scene. It was a coffin. The camper, once the centerpiece of Joseph and Emily's anniversary escape, had become a twisted tomb for a young woman who only wanted a weekend of love, peace, and new beginnings. Investigators moved in carefully, knowing what Joseph Ferlazo had told them, but no amount of preparation could soften what they were about to find. Detective Kyle Langley described it as one of the most disturbing scenes of his career. We walked in and immediately saw the trash bags. Just a pile, and we knew. Each bag was sealed, labeled as potential evidence, and handled with utmost care. But they weren't filled with household trash. Inside, investigators found body parts. Emily's arms, legs, torso, each wrapped in plastic, just as Joseph had admitted. There was no panic in his actions, no disorder. Everything was methodically cleaned, arranged, cold. The forensic team found blood-soaked sheets, a power saw, multiple knives, bleach bottles and cleaning wipes, a black pistol modified with a silencer, and Emily's wedding ring, small, bloody, still intact. Her ring said everything, a symbol of love, now sitting among tools of violence and deception. Inside the camper's kitchenette, blood splatter patterns told their own story, confirming where the shooting occurred and how Emily's body had been dragged. Even the shower drain held trace amounts of blood, suggesting Joseph tried to wash away the evidence. But there was too much of it. Emily had fought, had bled, had died in that van, and no amount of scrubbing could erase it. One investigator, a mother herself, had to pause mid-search. I just kept thinking, her mother is waiting to hear that she's okay. And here we are, picking up her daughter in pieces. But what came next was even more horrifying. When the medical examiner performed Emily's autopsy, they confirmed her cause of death. 2 gunshot wounds to the head. But there was something else, something Joseph hadn't mentioned in his confession. Emily had been stabbed 18 times, post-mortem, after death, in the chest, in the heart. This wasn't just a murder, it was overkill, a rage killing, the type prosecutors use to dismantle any claim of self-defense. And it wasn't the only surprise. During the autopsy, the examiner noted bruises on Emily's arms, defensive wounds, suggesting she had fought back. Joseph had claimed she was the aggressor, but Emily's body told the truth. She had tried to survive. When the evidence was laid out before the Vermont state's attorney, the decision was clear and swift. Joseph Ferlazo was charged with first-degree murder and held without bail, but the damage was already done. Emily's family, her stepfather David, her mother, her younger siblings, had spent days living in limbo, clinging to hope. Now they were told their daughter was gone, shot, dismembered, mutilated. The news shattered them. At the same time, Vermont's small and peaceful Bolton Valley community recoiled in horror. The place known for skiing, weddings, and mountain serenity had now become the site of something almost unimaginable. The media picked up the story, not just because of its brutality, but because of who Emily was. She wasn't just another statistic, she had a story. Emily Ferlazo was only 22. She was a singer, a daughter, a friend, a certified nurse assistant who had spent her short adult life caring for others. She wanted to become a cosmetologist, loved doing makeup, had a talent for painting and a gentle heart. She didn't deserve this. Her friends began posting videos of her online, singing in her room, laughing with her little sister, lighting up every frame. One video in particular went viral. Emily singing Leonard Cohen's Hallelujah. Her voice was soft, strong, full of emotion. In hindsight, the lyrics hit like a sledgehammer. Love is not a victory march. It's a cold and it's a broken hallelujah. At her memorial, the song played again, this time through tears. Detectives who worked the case said they'll never hear that song the same way again. Joseph's claim of self-defense had already started to unravel. The evidence showed planning, the suppressor, the way he returned to social events afterward, the false story about an Uber ride. It was all part of a carefully woven lie. And yet Joseph still had one more story to tell, because when the trial finally began, 3 years later, he would take the stand himself. And what he said next would leave even the courtroom stunned. Nearly 3 years after Emily Ferlazo was murdered, her name finally echoed through a Vermont courtroom, not as a victim, but as a symbol of justice waiting to be served.
You gave the police a very long account of what happened.
I watched the video.
And you would agree with me that based on that, you had a memory on October 19th of what happened on October 15th and October 16th and October 17th and October 18th.
I have no memory except for there was a memory about the like cutting into her leg with a knife and being sick over it.
Mr. Ferlazo, you didn't cut into her leg with a knife. You cut into her leg with a saw. And you did this multiple times.
What did I do multiple times?
Cut her with the saw.
I don't have any memory except for, like I said, I have a memory of cutting into her leg.
And while you're involved in dismembering her, you decide that you're going to stab her through the heart.
Did it say that on the video?
Are you disputing that Emily was stabbed through the heart?
autopsy expert said.
Mr. Ferlazo, we can agree that you lie.
Yes, I have lied to people.
You're lying today.
About?
Everything.
Had a violent temper. She flew into rages, punched him, even kicked him during their anniversary trip. He painted her as unstable, accusing her of threatening to ruin his life. But there was no physical evidence to support those claims. No bruises, no cuts, no signs of a struggle on Joseph himself. And most damning of all, no weapon ever found near Emily. Still, Joseph insisted, she reached under her pillow and pulled out a gun. She said, "That's it, you're dead." So I shot her. The same man who told police she had just gone crazy and that he had had enough was now pleading for the jury's sympathy. Even more disturbing was his account of what happened after the murder.
And this crime is about ego. Mr. Ferlazo's ego. And Mr. Ferlazo's nearly 42-year-old ego being unable to accept his 22-year-old wife disrespecting him. We are confident that you will find that Mr. Ferlazo killed Emily and that that killing was unlawful. There was no legal justification for it. It was willful. It was intentional, it was deliberate, and it was premeditated. And the state requests that you find him guilty of first-degree murder.
What he told you yesterday is that over the course of their relationship, Emily had become physically abusive to him. The state would have you believe that he's an egomaniac. It's up to you to decide if you saw any evidence of that in his demeanor or his testimony yesterday, He shot her because she disrespected him. He told you clearly about how many times she had hit him with objects, and he never hit her back. I tell you, I was terrified. I knew she was going to shoot me. He truly believed that she was going to shoot him, and that he had to shoot her with the Glock that was already in his hand in order to save his own life. That's what he told you yesterday. It's not what he told the police. But that's what he now remembers happening. What do you believe is the truth? What he told you yesterday or what he said to the police? I think that you will find him not guilty of first-degree murder and acquit him on the grounds of self-defense.
Joseph Ferlazo was sentenced to 42 years to life in prison, with credit for time already served. That means he will likely spend the rest of his life behind bars. But for Emily's family, the pain doesn't fade with a prison sentence. It stays. Every birthday, every holiday, every silent morning when she should have been there and wasn't. Emily's mother spoke through a recorded video at sentencing, her voice trembling, her words cutting straight through the courtroom. Emily loved music. She danced. She painted. She could sing the socks off any song. She had just begun her life. Now she will forever be 22. Others shared their memories. Her stepfather remembered the way she used to call him Gru, a playful jab that turned into a sweet bond between a girl and her mom's partner. Her best friend called her her soul sister, breaking down in court as she recalled the moment her world stopped. October 16, 2021. The courtroom played a video of Emily singing Hallelujah. Her voice rang out, beautiful and haunting. Some jurors cried. Even the judge looked down to compose himself. This wasn't just a victim. This was a daughter, a friend, a nurse, an artist, a wife, who thought she was on a romantic anniversary trip and never came back. This case shook even hardened detectives. The level of violence, the coldness, the aftermath. It was unlike anything they'd seen before, and yet, from all that darkness came something enduring. Emily's voice, not just in song, but in the way her story has now become a beacon, highlighting the often hidden dangers of domestic violence. Her murder wasn't just a moment of rage. It was a culmination of emotional control, manipulation, and ultimately, deadly power. But her story didn't disappear. You're hearing it now. And through you, through every person who listens, who remembers, who speaks her name, Emily lives on. Thank you for watching this case on Mystery in Minutes. If this story moved you, If Emily's voice mattered to you, and if you believe these stories deserve to be told, please like, share, and subscribe for more true crime stories that expose the darkest truths.